Greetings, this is Amy Wentley with Chai Knuckles Knitting, and this is episode 2021-11, Basic Socks, the Slip Stitch Heel Flap. So we're working on a sock, and we're working on double pointed needles. We have 3 of them here. We use a 4th one to knit with. I have finished ribbing on my sock. This was a 2x2 ribbing, and I worked part of my leg. This is a very short leg, but I worked my leg of the sock here, and I just finished working a leg round. And so just to orient you again, this is my needle 3, this is my needle 1, and each of those hold a quarter of the stitches. And this is my needle 2 that holds half of the stitches. So in order to make a slip stitch heel flap, we're going to have to knit over to needle 2 with half the stitches on it. You're going to want to work your heel flap on half the stitches of your sock. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to knit over to my second needle here. Okay, and this is just the leg at this point, so I'm just doing straight knitting. So here we are at needle 2. So for right now, and for a little while, as we work the heel flap and as we turn the heel, we are actually not going to work on needles 1 and 3 back here. We'll just be working on needle 2. And again, this is half the stitches. So we're going to start by slipping the first stitches to purl and then knit the next stitch, then slip and knit, slip and knit, slip and knit, all the way across that row. So let's do that. We're going to slip the first stitch as if to purl. So we insert our needle like we're purling, and we're going to just drop it off the left needle. The next stitch we are going to knit. The next stitch after that we are going to slip as if to purl, and then the next stitch we are going to knit. Slip as if to purl, 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 knit. And that finishes an odd number row. That's our first row. So then we turn the work, and we're actually working so that the inside of the sock is facing us. And on this row, we are going to slip the first stitch as if to purl, and then we are going to purl all the way across. No slipping. So slip the first stitch as if to purl, just slip it off the needle, and then we're going to go ahead and purl all the way across. We are going to continue alternating these 2 rows until we have the heel flap complete. In general, you are going to work a total number of rows equal to how many stitches you have on needle 2. So, if you were knitting a woman's sock and you were knitting with a total of 60 stitches for the leg, your heel flap would be 30 stitches. And you will work for the heel flap a total of 30 rows and then plus 1. So that would be 15 sets of these 2 rows plus 1. I am going to pause for a moment. I'm going to work a few more rows for you, and then I'll give you some hints and tips on counting your rows. I will be right back. Hi, I'm back. So you've finished alternating slip knit rows with purl rows, and if you were working on a woman's sock, you would have worked 30 rows. And I wanted to show you now how you can count how many rows you've done very easily in case you've lost count. So my sample here has 12 stitches for my heel. And so I needed to knit 12 rows for my heel flap. The way that you can count these rows is you will notice now that you've done these slip stitch rows that the slip stitches show up as these nice bands coming up your heel flap. And all of this actually adds cushioning to your heel so it doesn't wear as easily, wear through, so it's stronger. So one way to count how many rows you have is to look at these slip stitch rows and count how many of these big elongated stitches that you have, and these are the slip stitches, and then multiply by 2. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I multiply by 2, and that's 12, and that's exactly how many rows I needed while I was working my heel flap. Now to end the work on the heel flap, you need to work one more knit and slip stitch row, and you want to end up at the end of the needle 2 here, and then the next step is going to be turning the heel, and you are actually going to be starting that on the wrong side of your work, on the purl side. So as you finish this slip stitch and knit row, just leave your working yarn hanging, and then you will turn your work and you will be ready to start the short rows for turning the heel. And that will be my next video. That's episode 2021-12. So look for that video coming up next. See you soon. Bye-bye.